Time now for our Rants and Raves of the week, and we start with you, Dan.
Well, in a week where we lost Mayor Menino, we also lost Steve Burgard, who was the director of the School of Journalism at Northeastern. He was a friend and mentor to me, but more important, he was somebody who really, really cared about journalism. He's somebody who wrote editorials for the Los Angeles Times, where he worked with Marty Baron, among other people. And he had directed our program for the past dozen years. Somebody who cared about what we did, cared about the importance of journalism education. His illness came about very suddenly. We're all shocked by it, and we're going to miss him quite a bit.
Yeah, we had him on the show many times. We'd go to him. He was one of our go-to people for comments about journalism. Marjorie.
Well, following up on this not very happy note, we're all thinking and wishing the best and a quick recovery for Bob Newmeyer, longtime sportscaster on WBZ, now on ESPN. A terrific guy, very talented guy, good guy.
Horse aficionado, expert.
That's right. Helped me out in a few stories.
I worked with him in Hartford.
Okay, and had a stroke, and relatively young guy. We're hoping everything turns out well.
Yes, we are. All right, Callie.
I'm raving the Atlantic and the PBS NewsHour new relationship. The Atlantic's cover stories are going to be a part of the content of the PBS NewsHour. They're going to, as they say, bring them to broadcast life. I have this one little caveat, which is that I hope it's not just a, now we have the print story, let's just add some broadcast components. I'd love to see them expand a little bit on whatever the cover story is from the Atlantic, and really to digital as well, so that we have really more of an in-depth story. But I think this kind of collaboration with two entities that really focus on in-depth reporting is a good thing.
Well, as you know, the Washington Post did it with NBC on the Walter Reed Hospital, horrors that were going on there. Well, why do you think they chose the Atlantic? Because those pieces can be fairly ponderous too.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. So I think you have an opportunity to take to look at it when you're on a different platform in both broadcast and digital, and pull out some elements that would make it less ponderous for some people who might not pick up the Atlantic article. By the way, the first piece they did was about teenagers and sexting, and I believe that's something that a lot of people would be interested in.
It would be. Yeah. I agree. All right, Adam.
Quick rave for the Charleston, West Virginia Daily Mail, which canned its columnist Don Serber, who had written in a column about police brutality, which he doesn't believe exists, that Michael Brown, the man who was killed in Ferguson, was an animal who deserved to be put down.
Again, this is a columnist?
This is a columnist. Now, Serber wrote this on his personal blog, but the paper canned him, as they should have. They said his rhetoric was beyond the pale. They did not say, he has a right to be provocative. That's what we expect our columnists to do, or any bogus stuff like that. They canned him, and they should have. Good for them.
Wow.
Well, we've talked about that before. It's interesting when you have two separate entities. You're a journalist, and you tweet things out, or you write things on a blog that you would never say in a newspaper, but can you separate the two?
Well, it's especially hard when you're a hateful lunatic.
And the Daily Mail said you can't separate him. He's representing us when he says this stuff, and he's out.
Wow.
All right, well, I have a rant for CNN and Don Lemon in particular. I mean, these stories often take on a light of their own, but I just happened to be watching CNN the other night, and Don Lemon led the broadcast with the news that the police chief, speaking of Ferguson, was resigning, Thomas Jackson. He had confirmation up the yin-yang, and went on that. He devoted, I think he's got an hour show, he devoted at least the first 20 minutes to this and getting all kinds of reaction and how this is going to be a healing moment, and on and on and on about this.
He's not resigning, right?
Yeah. So the next day, I don't think anything more about it. I got a bad thinking. That's big news. That's a good story. I didn't see it anywhere else. But of course, next day, CNN kind of dials it back a tiny bit. But now the police chief has come forward himself saying, "I'm not resigning."
Any chance he changed his mind? That it was a correct
I don't know, because
moment?
the Washington Post also picked up on the story and said they had independently corroborated the story. But the police chief, unless he's going to, and he hasn't done it yet, but he came out today specifically and said, I am not resigning.
Well, I saw CNN this morning. They were interviewing a guy from Ferguson, some note, I can't remember his name, and he said, I don't think that he is, but here's how we could look at it if he decided to, but I don't think he is.
I didn't see much of a tongue lashing or, I didn't see Don Lemon taking any hits over that from CNN.
Because they love him.
They love him, and everything's all about Don, so. All right. That's our show. Tell us what you think. Does the media's inability to find Charlie Baker's fisherman mean he's lying? Is Casey Hickox a legitimate story or a sideshow? Weigh in on our website, beatthepress.org. You can also catch up on past episodes or watch any of this show you may have missed. I'm Emily Rooney. Thanks for joining us.